Juhyun, an author of these 5 books in series, is an Egyptologist who studied ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs and Egyptian religion and art at Liverpool University in UK. She's illustrated her own books, as well as translated the text from the ancient Egyptian scrolls to Korean and English for her series. Her illustrations in the books represent Egyptian art and symbolism, having blended onto contemporary art, giving a vivid imaginations and ideas on ancient Egyptian life and myths to readers. The Secret Island of Egypt. Let me tell you something wonderful story about what actually happened to me. Well, it's just about 4,000 years ago. I was a young and brave sailor. One day, I was traveling with 120 finest crews of Pharaoh in order to find a new world with great treasures. However, a storm came up, like a goddess of anger, and swallowed everything under rocks. No one survived except me. I was carried away to a mysterious island by a wave of the great green sea. I spent 3 days in fear, hiding myself under a big tree. Finally, I plucked up my courage to go out. Then I found myself in the middle of an island with beautiful flowers and birds, and all sorts of yummy fruit trees. There is nothing that this island did not have. Then I heard a thunderous noise. Trees were splintering. The earth was shaking. It was a gigantic serpent coming right towards me. Out of fear, I fell to the ground. Why you are here? What brings you? If you don't answer me at once, I'm gonna make you ashes. I thought that I'm gonna die by this big snake in this unknown island. But well, then a very strange thing happened. The Brave Prince of Egypt. Once upon a time in Egypt, there was a beautiful prince born with the 3 curses by the 7 goddesses of fate. He was told to meet his fate with a snake, a crocodile, and a hound. The pharaoh and queen were so worried and ordered to build a stone castle to keep their child out of misfortune. However, the baby grew and became a fine young man, and he wanted to live free and fight with his own fate. The pharaoh and queen already knew that they couldn't keep him in the castle forever, and they let the prince go and live the way he wanted. Meanwhile, there was a king in the far, far away, in the land of Mesopotamia, who ruled a great kingdom called Nahari. His kingdom was mighty, but he only had one daughter to pass his crown on to. He was worried about the future of the kingdom. Then the king of Nahari ordered for a great tall stone tower and put his daughter to stay. Then he declared a message to outside the kingdom. The man who climbs the princess tower first will become her husband. All the loyals of the land came to Nahari and tried to climb the tall stone tower to claim the princess as wife, and of course, with the kingdom. However, the great tower was too tall and slippery that the loyals fell to the ground before even getting near to the princess. The prince of Egypt was enjoying his freedom, traveling place to place without revealing his true identity. One day, he happened to pass by the land of Mitanni, found all this fuss around the tall tower. Then he decided to climb to meet the princess. Then he did. But he didn't know one thing, that Princess of Mitanni had already given her heart to him. The news soon reached the king of Mitanni, but he heard that the one who succeeded to claim his precious daughter as wife was a humble Egyptian traveler. The king was so upset and couldn't keep his disappointment. He secretly made a plan to kill the prince. Khufu and the Jedi the magician. This story takes place during the reign of Khufu, who built the Great Pyramid of Giza. The great king of Egypt had everything anybody even dreamed about, but he easily got bored and always complained at everything. One day, the king summoned his sons to tell wondrous stories to kill his boredom. But the stories of 3 sons did not satisfy Khufu and even made him more grumpy. Then the first prince Hajadef stood up and started telling his father of a magician named Jedi, who was actually living in present. The prince said that Jedi had the power to reattach a severed head onto an animal and tame a wild lion. As a matter of fact, he got the pet lion on his own. Above all, the prince claimed that Jedi had information about the secret shrines of thought. The Khufu secretly wished to gain it for his own good. The shrine which had secret knowledge of how to build a great pyramid. The pharaoh Khufu exclaimed with an excitement, "Go at once and bring Jedi to me." Then the prince was sent to bring the magician to court by Khufu's magnificent boat. Hajadef and his crew were sailing along the great river Nile to bring a great living magician and his wondrous magic. The Talkative Pageant. Hun Anubis was a good farmer who lived with a beautiful wife and 3 children. One day, he said to his wife, "I'm heading off to city to get supplies for our family." Then he carried all his goods on the back of the donkeys to sell in the market in exchange for food. Hun Anubis traveled to the south and came to the land of coal, her Papi. Then he found a man standing on the bank. The man called Nemtinak was very greedy and sly. His cunning eyes got the sight of assets of pageant. He made a plan to steal Hun Anubis' donkeys and supplies. Nemtinak placed a cloth on the narrow public path, which eventually the poor pageant would either trample the cloth or step into the water, as Hun Anubis appealing to Nemtinak to take his clothes away for passing. Unfortunately, one of his donkeys ate a bite of barley. Then Nemtinak shouted, "Look, you greedy donkey ate my barley. For that, I shall take your donkey away." When the peasant complained this punishment was unfair, he took up branches of tamarisk and beat him, and saying, "Don't raise your voice, peasant, because no one gonna listen to you." Then the poor peasant wept and cried out for justice. He sought out the high officer, the noble Ransi, son of Meru, and told him all about what had happened to him. However, the high officer Ransi seemed very cold and indifferent to what the peasant was saying. The Story of Sinha. I was the sole companion of his lord, Amenemhet I, who was a great pharaoh of Egypt. My lord trusted me so much that I was appointed to accompany the Prince Senwosret to Libya for his loyal campaign. Senwosret, my lord, had a great victory, carrying away captives of Libya and cattle of all kinds beyond the number. And on the way back to Egypt, however, a secret messenger from the royal residence came to the prince at night and delivered the terrifying news. It was the death of Pharaoh Amenemhet I. I couldn't believe what I heard and fell into great fear and sorrow. My world seemed just collapsed. I had to get out of this country. Then I fled to Syria, leaving Egypt behind. I spent years in Syria as a foreigner, but I was wise and strong, and I built a good reputation among the Syrians. Then, the ruler of Lachenu, Amun-Enshi, called upon me and wanted to make me his right hand. I worked for him and fought against his enemies. Then I married his first daughter, becoming a ruler of rich land called Ya. However, A strong man of Syria, powerful opponent, challenged me to duel in order to steal my asset and my family. Then through the night, I was preparing for a single combat upon my life.